Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Hassan of the Eastern Fighter. Welcome back to episode 10. So, what I want to describe to you guys in this episode are different ways to improve your fighting. Now, I've spoken to a lot of upper echelon fighters, and I've asked them a countless amount of questions as to basically what runs through their minds each and every fight. So, in this episode, I'm going to go through the 5+ techniques that I've come to the conclusion that have run through the minds of most of these fighters. It doesn't matter if they're doing two-sword, great weapon, polearm, spear, sword and board. It doesn't matter. These are the techniques that they think of. The first thing that should play in your mind is range. Now, I have come to learn of different ways to basically describe range, different terminology, if you will. So, I'm going to describe it to you guys the way that I heard that was actually best for me. And the 4 ranges that I use are D, C, B, and A range. So basically, okay, let's say your adversary is standing in front of you. I'm just going to grab the sword just because that's our typical weapon in the SCA. So, when I'm here, I'm in my sword and board stance. D range would basically be completely out of range from your adversary. Basically, you could swing all you want and you're not going to hit them. That is your personal D range, being out of range. C range, theoretically, is about 1 step or so forwards where, they're in range now, and it's basically going to be the top portion of your stick. I'm going to say the top 4 inches, not even 2 inches of your stick. Basically, it's good enough to get a thrust stab into the face, and you're just going to hit with the tip of your stick. That's your C range. Now, your B range is where we get busy. That's how I remember it. B range is, okay, you're in here, now you're hitting with the sweet spot of your stick, which is basically, I'd say about 4 to 6 inches in, in this general vicinity here, and that's where we do a lot of our work from. That's where we do a lot of our work from, is the B range. And naturally, A range is right in your adversary's face, or they're down on their knees and you're on top of them trying to get a better positioning. So, once again, number 1 is range. Range is a huge thing. We have to take this into consideration. Another thing to take into consideration about range is that everybody's range is different. I'm 5'7". My range is going to be different, obviously, than somebody who's 6'4". So, while I might be in my personal D range, where I'm out of range from my adversary, I might be in his C range, where he could get a tip on me. So, not only do you have to be knowledgeable of what range you're in, but you most certainly have to be knowledgeable as to what range your adversary is in. This will improve your fight game tremendously once you actually just come to terms with this. Okay? Another huge one is shot selection. Alright? Now, I don't have a pole on me, so I'm just going to use this dowel rod here. Alright? I'm going to use it as a basic representation as a pole arm. So, shot selection. Alright? How many guys have you seen go out with their pole? And they're hitting here, and hitting here, and hitting here, and hitting here. They're changing positions. They're here, 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 here. They're doing that windshield wiper technique where they need to get something, and they're going to get it. That is not shot selection, okay? You're flailing. You're doing the windshield wiper technique. You're never going to train properly. You're never going to hit. You might get a lucky hit now and again. More than likely, it's not going to be with sufficient enough power. So the fact that you're even flailing is beyond pointless. Shot selection. Think of your range. All right, I have my pole. and I'm in my stance, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm basically, now, I've increased my range dramatically. So now, my D range is going to be exceptionally further back, especially when I'm fighting somebody with sword and board. I obviously have the advantage, so now there's me taking that range into effect as far as being at a more advantageous position when it comes to range. Shot selection, okay? Targeting is huge. Targeting is huge. A lot of times, the best shots are the shots that are not open yet. Okay, think about that for a second. Upper echelon fighters do this all the time. I've started to attempt to adapt this into my fighting style, and I have improved tremendously in the past couple of months. Set up shots. Study your adversary. Maybe you're here in your stance, and you're noticing, okay, every time I drop down, he raises his shield up slightly, thinking that you're going to face thrust him because he's been dragging down his shield the entire fight, so you've been throwing some shots to his face. So you could attempt to anticipate an opening, where as soon as you get into the stance, you bring it down onto him, hitting him in the leg. Now, was that target always open? No, it wasn't. He was protecting his legs a lot most of the fight, which is what caused you initially to continuously throw shots at his head. Now, he's so self-conscious of the stab to the face that you're anticipating him bringing that shield up, and you get him right in the leg. That's exactly what I mean by anticipating shots. Next thing that I'm going to speak about is recovery. A lot of people, when you're on that list, there's some of us who just really don't want to hurt our friend, you know? So you're not throwing that hard shot that you need to. You know, we have to throw shots with sufficient enough force that if you were using a broadsword, it would have broke open chainmail. That's the way our shots are calibrated in the SCA. And then there's some people who don't mind hitting. And when you finally get used to throwing those shots, a lot of people overextend, they'll hang their arm out. So that's all great. You threw your shot. Now you're leaving yourself wide open. There's a ribcage shot. There's a head shot. Recover. You throw your weapon out. Always bring it back. I was guilty as charged of this. Yeah, sometimes, you know, I'm here, and I was in my stance, and I threw the shot here. But, you know, this seems like it's much faster to go from here to here. It's really not. Because it's going to take an enormous amount more energy to bring that weapon back and down. I'm throwing the shot on top of it with just my arm. It's not going to be sufficient enough force in order to get a successful killing blow. Throw your shot, bring it back. Now it's cocked. Take that shot. The most direct route to a single point is a straight line. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from here, but that's not sufficient enough force. And quite frankly, if you threw a shot and you're recovering, and he's able to block that next shot, the shot wasn't there in the first place. Okay? Think about that. Alright? So you take your shot, throw, and then recover. Throw, and get ready for that attack to come back. You're recovering so you can be back on the defense. You can't take a strictly offensive posture. You can't just go and go and go. It's never going to work.